Today is a story about failure. But first, a little backstory. This is a Super 8mm film camera. I bought this camera earlier this year after screening my great-grandfather's 8mm film reels from the 60s, and I kind of fell in love with the format. Now, I actually haven't shot any film for a really long time, but challenge accepted. I just need something cool to shoot, and out of the blue, my friend Damon sent me a rough cut of something he was working on.
This is Evan Bedell.
If you're giving me a runway, I want to think, how can I break all of these boundaries around this runway? That's always very exciting, so you never know what you're going to get.
Starting to get the heart palpitations.
Evan Bedell is one of Canada's top fashion designers, and watching Damon's video gave me a brilliant idea. This was the perfect concept to shoot my first 8mm film. I could test out my camera on some cool content, and they could use the footage in their final edit. It's a win-win, really. What could go wrong? Evan's show was just one of many taking place at the venue. Damon was shooting some behind-the-scenes stuff, and I was saving the film for the main event. Before long, it was time to take my place in the pit. What's the pit, you ask? Let me try to explain. So I'm in the pit, and the pit is exactly how it sounds. It's a sectioned off area at the end of the runway where all the photographers sit. So you have as many photographers that can get crammed in there, all pining for the best shot. So the competition is stiff, and I literally can't move. So that's the pit, best way to explain it. Now, shooting fashion events is fast. The show itself is about 12 to 15 minutes, and it's live, so there's no downtime once the show starts. Now, one roll of film would last me just over 3 minutes, so I need to pace my shots so that I have enough to get to the end. I'm getting what sounds like good film roll when I pull the trigger. I kept my bursts fairly short, but did notice a small clicking noise that would happen every 3 seconds or so. Now, because the pit was so dark, I couldn't see my film counter. So through the whole fashion show, I was blind as to how much film I was using. Now, there is a lot of uncertainty when shooting film, especially when it's your first time with a new camera. Am I exposing it properly? Is my focus on? All these things are sitting in the back of my mind as I'm trying to capture interesting shots. Then almost as fast as it started, the show was over. Now, as I left the pit for a more well-lit area, I couldn't shake this feeling of uncertainty. When I got out into the foyer, I checked my film counter, and it was stuck at 0 feet. So either my film counter wasn't working or the film wasn't rolling. Now, I pulled the trigger one more time and looked right here. There's a little wheel that indicates if the film's rolling. So I clicked the shutter and watched that wheel. It didn't move. And I was hearing that same clicking sound every 3 seconds, which means only one thing. Nothing I shot exposed. This great little idea I had completely failed. And my camera doesn't work. Okay, maybe this whole falling back thing was a little dramatic, but I needed to visualize kind of what it felt like at the time. I wasn't paid for this gig, I did it strictly voluntary, so there was no real big loss other than my own. When I met up with Damon afterwards, I told him that nothing exposed, the film didn't roll. He kind of laughed and he just said, "That's film." And it's so true, that is film. That's something that I've kind of been desensitized from shooting digital for so long and working as an editor is like the craft of shooting film and how long it takes and how much uncertainty there is until you actually screen the final developed film. You don't really know. So it's an exercise in uncertainty. But it was a personal failure, a creative failure. It was a learning experience for me, one that I haven't had in a long time, and I honestly, I kind of liked it. I mean, I like that kind of like trial by fire, disappointed, but then you come out the other side knowing more, having learned something. You're always going to encounter some sort of failure. So really the key is how you deal with the failure. Do you let it destroy you and crush you to the point of paralyzing you creatively, or do you learn from it and move on and live to fight another day? I went home and spent the next few hours scouring the internet to look for some sort of reason as to why this happened. And I saw a post where somebody said that when shooting with modern film on old cameras, it's best to like loosen the film reel up a bit, because sometimes it's wound a little too tight for the sprockets in the camera to grab. So I did that. I unwound, I loosened the film somewhat, I loaded it, popped it in, and I rolled. And not only did it make a completely different sound when it was rolling, it was working. The camera works. I was ecstatic, I was super thrilled. I messaged Damon after, just like, the camera works, dude, the camera works. No, we didn't get the cool stylized 8mm footage for the fashion show, but in the end, Damon produced a solid video. And I walked away with a valuable lesson and experience. Anyway, that's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. Stories of failure I find kind of interesting, and I hope you did too. So if you did like it, hit that like button, and if you want to see more, consider subscribing. As for me, I'm going to go ice my back because that fall, I'm not 12 anymore, so that fall did a number on me. But I will see you guys next time. Take two. No.